Well, hello YouTube. This is Russ. I'm an auto body painter. I've been doing it for about 20 years. Um, People often ask me why it costs so much to paint a car. Well, I'm going to do my best to explain that in a shortest version that I can. Um, there's a few things that come in. There's all kinds of variables, but we're going to talk about painting a fender today. And basically, if you had a small fender bender and the affected area isn't going to get in the way or move into another panel, that'll save you a ton of money. If you can blend a panel in the center, and what I mean by blending a panel is you get new paint. It's like these two pens right here. Let's say that this is the color of your car when it was brand new. 10 years later, it may look this color. Because the sun, the UV rays, and everything, and whatever you put your car through, is going to change its outcome over a period of time. It's going to fade. It's going to lose color. It's going to change. All right. The problem comes in, like if you get a brand new fender. And some of these things I'm going to go over is why it costs so much. All right. So you get a brand new fender. I always get my paint. I get it mixed. There's always, people say, oh, you only got to paint that little spot right there. Well, it doesn't matter how little of a spot I got to paint. There's a minimum of paint that I have to purchase because I don't have a paint system here, but I have my own paint booth and all that happy stuff. But now, when you go to the paint store, you're going to have to buy a minimum. And there's no bringing paint back. You can't bring paint back once it's been mixed. So if somebody came to me and said they wanted a paint job and I lined everything up and I went down and picked up the paint and everything, and then the customer changed their mind, I still have to buy that paint. It doesn't matter whether the car gets done or not. Once I'm obligated, I'm obligated. But with that being said, okay, you get a brand new fender. It's in a box. The first thing I usually like to do is I'd like to make a paint chip. Okay, so already I'm going to mix up a little bit of my paint. I'm going to put it in my gun. And there's more to just, you get a can of paint. You also got to use what they call a reducer. You got to thin the paint down so it's a sprayable mixture. You got to mix it to what the manufacturer says, whether it be 2 to 1, 4 to 1. Them are measurements. That's for further discussion. Anyway, you go through that. First, you got to scuff up the fender. Well, I skipped over the paint chip. You spray the paint chip, you clear coat the paint chip, you set it aside. All right, and then you go and you grab the fender. You got to scuff it. You got to clean it because it comes with a primer on it, but that's not a sealer. And if you go ahead and just paint that without sealing it, you're not giving it any corrosion protection. So it's valid to rust. It's valid to do all kinds of things. I mean, regardless, you're going to have to sand it, whether you skip that or not. It's always best to seal it. In any professional shop, you're going to go and you're going to get epoxy primer and sealer, and you're going to go ahead and do that after you've scuffed it, sanded it, hung it. And then you get your tack rag. Well, first you blow it off. Then you grab your tack rag. Once your tack rag is going to be used for this job, it's a one-time use. And, I mean, you could buy a box of tack rags or you could buy them individually. But individually, you wouldn't want to do that because they cost $2, $3 a piece. And, it's a one-job thing. So I buy them by the box because I paint a lot of panels. But already there, you're getting into cost. Some people use scuff stuff. Some people use sandpaper. Some people use Scotch-Brites to sand their panel. Each one of them, none of them being incorrect, it's just dependent on the preference of the shop. Second of all, you got the price of heating the booth. Like here, I live in New York. So in the wintertime, I have to heat the booth, whether I'm painting a mirror, whether I'm painting a fender, it doesn't matter. Because it's got to be whatever the paint, I usually keep the booth about 75 degrees. And that's about where I like to keep it. But now the cure time, you also have to let it sit in there, and it has to be up to temperature for so many hours, minutes, whatever, according to the manufacturer. It's got to stay that temperature till it's cured. Otherwise, your paint you can have problems with the paint. But what I'm saying is you still got to pay to heat that booth, whether or not you're spraying in it at that moment or whether or not. But, so you spray the sealer and it's on there. Now, sealer, I just bought a can just the other day and I ordered it online to try to save some money. Between the quart of sealer and between the hardener, just for itself, was $77 for the quart of hardener, and it was another $40, or, yeah, it was $77 for the sealer, and it was another $40 for the hardener to go with it. You have to have hardener, otherwise the paint won't get hard. That's self-explanatory. You turn around and you get that, you get it sprayed with that. After it's cured enough to go ahead and spray your base, then you go ahead and you mix up the rest of your paint. But in the meantime, you take that paint chip and you run out to the vehicle, whatever vehicle it is that you're working on, and you'll be able to see how faded that paint is. Okay, here's where you could run into a lot of money just by having to paint one fender. Okay, if the paint looks like a zebra, that's bad. I mean, you know, obviously an owner isn't going to want their car to look like a zebra or a couple shades off. I mean, it's going to stand out. You're going to see it, and it's going to be there. So that's when you move into what they call blending. All right, now it's not just a fender. That means you're going to blend into the door. You're going to have to blend into the hood. You're going to have to blend into the bumper. Now, average prices for these, which I just looked them up because I wanted a U.S. average. I didn't just pull these out of my head. Average bumper, and this is $150 if you don't really have to do anything to it but scuff it, tape it off, and shoot it. All right. Door is average $100. And quarter panel, very minimum $150. A hood, minimum $200. But the bumper can go as much as $300, and that depends on what kind of paint, what colored paint, what type of clear coat you want used. I mean, all these factors need added in. I mean, you can spend an astronomical amount of money on a paint job, depending on what you want. But if you're just going with the basics, you can typically do it for about $150. And still leave room for me to make a profit. A door, probably up to $500. It depends on how hard the door comes apart, because you got to pull the door handles, you got to pull the trim, you got to do all the 9 yards. And then you got to tape everything all off, scuff everything up, just like you did the fender. But, all right, we'll skip past all that. But you got to be able to blend into the door. You start out with a little bit of strong, heavy paint, and then it fades off into the door, which you need so much room in order to do this, or it won't look right. Any novice painter that goes and paints a fender, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about really fast. Now, you turn around, and after you get the sealer done, and after it gets cured, you got to hang it in your booth. You go in there, you take the gun, and you spray the fender. All right, 1, 2 coats, 3 coats, whatever the manufacturer calls for. Or even if you may just see a white spot, maybe it didn't cover as well in an area. I mean, but that's your job. That's what you got to look for. And you turn around after that, you take your tack rag, after it's flashed, that's the time it takes for the reducer to evaporate out of the paint. All right, and then you've got to go ahead and you got to tack it. And now you're on a time crunch, because some manufacturers want you to do it wet on wet. Some want you to let it flash and totally flash, and then you go to your next step. I always let mine flash. I barely ever do a wet on wet. I'm never in that big a hurry, because I try not to hurry because I want a good job. You turn around after that, you tack it off, you get it done, and then you do 2 coats of clear coat. First one is a medium wet coat. Second one is going to be your heavy coat. All right, so you got them many processes. And another thing that has been asked to me before, I want you to clear this, but since you're not really painting it, I want a really good deal on it because you're not painting it. Well, I beg to differ with you, because yes, you are painting it. You still have to go through the same prep procedures to clear a door as you would to paint a door. I mean, it varies very little between the two. It still has to get scuffed. The door still needs to come apart. The handles need to come out. The trim has to come off. Everything has to be taped up, and it's the same as whether it just doesn't matter. To me, it's just as much work. So I'm not going to give somebody a break if they just want clear coat. I mean, that's fine if that's all they want, but it literally is the same no matter which way you look at it. Now, you got to keep in mind, I already kind of brought it up a little bit, but yeah, it does cost a lot of money to run the heat. It costs money to run the fans. It costs money when you got parts hanging in the booth, and the booth is sitting there, and you got something else to paint, but you can't move the parts because they got to dry. So you got to find something else to do while you're waiting for that to dry. So booth time is also money. And then, of course, everybody's got to pay Uncle Sam. I do, you do, everybody does. So I hope this gives you a little better outlook on why it costs so much, even just to paint one fender. I mean, depending on the color of your paint. I've seen some paint. I bought 1 quart of paint, and that 1 quart of paint was well over $600. Just for the color. Not the clear coat, not the sealer, not the primer, not any of the above. Okay? And I had a very hard time explaining to this guy that because of the material cost, it made it kind of astronomical. So, and if you're looking for an overall paint job, you want to change the color of your car, that's going to cost you a lot more money. Because you have to do the door jams, you have to do the trunk jams. And that's 2 separate paint jobs. I mean, because once you get it all jammed off, taped off, I mean, you can do it in one shot. I prefer to break it up, but that's my opinion. That's the way I do it. But I do hope that you've gotten something out of this, and if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and hit in the comments below, and I will surely gladly answer anything that I can. I'll be posting more videos, and hopefully I can go into a little better descriptions, but this is just a basic idea guide to let you know what things it cost and why we charge as much. Okay, I hope I was informational, and like I said, leave your comments down below, give me a thumbs up, and like my channel. Thank you. Have a good day.